We're not alone. Switching places.
Yeah, so that was so good intense every time I watched that. This was really big for us because we took all of the big challenges that we had, redefining, bringing Master Chief back, getting a new graphics engine, having all of these new AI behaviors, introducing the Prometheans, and we put it all into one demo. And it was really interesting for us because as players picked it up for the very first time, they would choose the regular Halo difficulty level, like Legendary or Heroic, and they would be getting beaten, and they would keep telling us it's so hard. And once we were like, is the game really too difficult? But it took us a while to realize that because we had created so many new enemy behaviors, I'm sure you saw that crawlers were able to animate over the different objects, and the Watcher throw the grenade back, and the Knight transport to you. All these behaviors, players had to really relearn how to play Halo and relearn how to fight these enemies. And that was when we kind of really had a feeling that we were getting something new. Also, as a quick note, when we brought that to E3, that was probably our first time showing off this much of Halo. And we were absolutely terrified. We had no idea what people would think and what the reception would be. And it was fantastic to hear everyone love what we were doing. So the next portion is Blasting to Infinity. This was really big for us because we really wanted to get as much fiction into multiplayer as possible. We wanted you to connect with your multiplayer character the same way you connect with Master Chief. And this was really big as bringing narrative to multiplayer was always a huge challenge. We didn't want to put cutscenes in the game or add too much story content into a competitive experience that players could have played thousands and thousands of times. It had never been done to this scale before, and it started with immediate exploration of this new starship. Now, as a video game designer, once we started getting these ideas together, I certainly realized that we had a gigantic starship to ourselves filled with Spartan Force super soldiers, and we just got to go create the stories for them. Now that sounds like the most fun job in the entire world, and actually is, but it was a huge challenge, and I couldn't have been happier, and it was probably the best way to set up this experience. So actually, back to this one, I mentioned the architecture of the ship. Each of those sections are actually very well defined and explored in the fiction. So if you look at the red section in the middle, that's actually the Sim Theater, which players will use in Forge. And it was really big for us to sort of make this connection and fulfill the story of why these Spartans are fighting each other. So this is a video of the Infinity and the story content behind it.
Infinity. Welcome to the beginning of your new Spartan career. Infinity's story begins in Halo 4's campaign and continues online. Once aboard Infinity, Spartans prepare for combat by competing in war games, a vast simulating experience spanning competitive maps and modes. Cooperative live-fire operations launch from the Spartan Ops briefing room. These missions spin off from a weekly cinematic series set aboard the ship. Each week, a new episode will be released along with 5 new cooperative missions, moving the story of the Halo universe forward in exciting new directions. Everything Spartans do directly impacts and rewards their career. War Games is competitive play. Spartan Ops is weekly episodic cooperative play. No matter what you choose, everything matters in this ongoing, persistent experience. The line between fiction, competitive multiplayer, and campaign is erased aboard Infinity. Your every action affects the story, the ship, and the very fate of the galaxy.
It just made me think of that concept art of the UNSC Infinity. It's interesting because we tried to push the futurism as far as we possibly could, and just walking around Bilbao today, I was looking and thinking to myself that we need to push it even further about how futuristic this city is. So with Spartan Ops, we really wanted, it was a replacement for Firefight, and we really wanted to make as much story as possible. I always get told by parents, especially when we go to gaming conferences, that the game isn't long enough and that the kids finish within a day or two. And despite us spending 3 years in a campaign, it can still be finished within about 6 to 8 hours. So Spartan Ops was really big for us because we are releasing 5 missions each week along with a video. And the video will sort of tie in the experience of the Infinity. And we really had to take a lot of care as designers to make sure that the video matched the actual gameplay content that players were getting. So this is a really good example of a video experience of gameplay that players bring to life.
Pop up wherever they want to, don't they? And how is that even fair, huh? Bastard, look out!
The next portion of Infinity is Wargames. Wargames is competitive multiplayer. I always say that Halo started on my couch. I'm sure if you played Halo 1, you can all remember sitting in your basement playing four-player until your parents yelled at you. I certainly did. And it was an endless game where you could just go on and on and on. And this was my sort of responsibility for Halo. I took care of the entire competitive multiplayer portion. So this is bringing in the new game modes, the new maps, and new experiences. So this next section of the presentation is sort of for a game developer, or if you're interested in game development, these are some sort of the secrets behind how we can create such experiences. So Infinity Slayer was probably the biggest challenge. Now there's many game modes in Halo 4. We've got Dominion, which is all new base building mode, Regicide, which is our new take on free-for-all. We basically reinvented Capture the Flag. But living up to that Halo Reborn philosophy, everything was rebuilt from the ground up. And we were very afraid of this at first, but that also included Slayer. So Slayer, of course, is our deathmatch experience. It's when you have 2 teams of 4 going up against each other for 50 kills. These are the most simple rules in any online video game, and it's probably what makes it the most popular of all the modes. In almost every competitive multiplayer shooter out there, Slayer or deathmatch is the #1 game mode. So it was absolutely terrifying to reinvent this. If you can imagine having to sort of break Halo, would be the best way I could put it, and then make it again. It was like tearing down a house of cards and putting it back together. So we called this Infinity Slayer, and here's a list of very technical sort of multiplayer features that we added. We added a scoring system where we split rewards, so players were not only earning points for their team, but also for themselves. This made it a much more personal experience, and it let us really understand what players were doing on the battlefield and give them more rewards for it. We changed the lifespan, so this is sort of the game loop. How often players spawn? How many shots does it take to kill an enemy? Where do they spawn? Do they spawn close to their teammates? Do they spawn away from danger? How often do weapons spawn in the game? All of these little variables, if you tune just one of them, it can change absolutely everything about the way the game works. And we were very sensitive to this all the way through the development process, and it took a lot of iteration to really get that feeling. To give you an idea of how much we play tested, it would probably be, we just played 4 hours a day for almost the entire project. And this was a lot, it was heavy, and there was long periods of time where the game was just not fun. We were kicking ourselves over it. We would just look at ourselves in the mirror and say, we have broken Halo. And we would fight, and we would just go crazy, and we would just have these horrible days where our playtest didn't go well. Nothing was working, and we didn't know what to do to fix it, and the only thing that we could think of was go backwards. But you really had to persevere, and I don't think you get success without taking risks. And we definitely took risks with Infinity Slayer. and then go through some of the prototypes that we went through. So we started with 4 different versions of the game. There's actually probably closer to 12, but I would say that 4 were the biggest ones. Slayer++, this was all about scoring. This was how do we reward players in ways that are like never before. So we started things like teamwork medals or distraction. We have one called road trip. All these medals really evaluate what's going on in the battlefield and whether we should reward a player for it. One of my favorites, I just mentioned distraction, is if you're sort of running away or getting shot at, you're taking damage, maybe you're trying not to die, one of the best ways to win in Halo, and your teammate kills the guy who's shooting at you. Well, we're going to reward the player who's running away for that, because he really did contribute to his team's success, even if he didn't realize it. And we scripted and programmed a lot of very special systems to sort of understand what was going on the battlefield. That was Slayer++. Ordnance Slayer, this is all about bringing weapons into the battlefield. You'll see that in a video I'm going to show later on. But you can bring in weapons, and this was a huge deal. We had to really work on this system. M-Slayer, which used to stand for Midnight Slayer, that was the code name for the project for a long time. This was all about introducing the new Forerunner weapons. As you saw those amazingly powerful weapons. If you have a gun that kills in one hit, how do you bring that into multiplayer when it's stronger than everything else? So getting that real balance in gameplay flow was all developed in M-Slayer. And then Power Up. With Halo 4 we brought Speed Boost, Damage Boost, and Overshield. Overshield has existed before, but we really wanted to make it its own citizen in sort of the combat circle. So we had 3 power levels that we were focused on, which is a player bringing their loadouts into battle, a player picking up a weapon off the ground, like a rocket launcher or our new LMG or a sniper rifle, and then them picking up a power-up. And once they picked up that power-up, that's when you can become incredibly powerful, and we see all sorts of competitive strategies revolve around that. So this is probably back around E3 as well. This would have been June 2012, and this was one of the early Ordnance systems. So what's happening here is a player has earned a lot of points playing the game. They've earned a lot of medals, and they've got enough points to call themselves a weapon. And this is a very old Ordnance pod. And they called in this weapon, and the way we used to do this was we placed about 200 or 300 points on a map. And we would say, this is an okay point to drop this ordnance system. So you can imagine that this whole stage, there would be points all over it. And we would carefully place these, and then based on where the player was standing, we would pick one of these points. And we actually did our E3 demos like this, but it wasn't working for us overall. The points were too expensive, we wanted a faster frame rate, we wanted better points. So we switched over to our new ordnance system, which worked dynamically. So using one of our programmers, William Archbell, just knocked this code out of the park. It's probably one of the most impressive systems I've ever seen. It will dynamically choose a point that's not afraid of other players, height, vehicles, and it will very carefully, I would almost describe it as like a net that goes out around the player. And then it will choose different spots in the world to bring in your ordnance. And our success rate with this was fantastic. And it really developed this system and added to the Slayer experience like never before. That's it for Slayer. We also worked on objective modes a lot, and our philosophy here was we wanted you to feel like role-playing almost. So whenever you became the Flood in our new Flood mode, or picked up the flag and captured the flag, or held an oddball, or became the King in Regicide, we wanted that experience to really change. How does that make it different? How do does dynamic music come on? How does the HUD change? But the biggest thing we found wasn't all the stuff that we were telling you. It was what we were telling your teammates. So if you picked up the flag in Halo 4, we're going to tell your teammates right away to come help you. And they've got new rewards for driving you to the flag. They've got new rewards for protecting you. Or you've got rewards for doing new cool things with the flag, like assassinating. So we really took role-playing to the next level. And as a multiplayer designer, it's something that had been overlooked in so many multiplayer games before. And I'm really happy that we focused on making each experience of taking a different role in the game unique, because if you're playing hundreds and hundreds of games, it really helps break up that monotone pace that may develop. So this is a very quick video on some of the War Games footage from around August 2012.
Flight assassination. First strike. Double kill. Double kill. Just spree.